All right, Isaiah chapter 3. This is Isaiah part 2 of our Old Testament survey. Heavenly Father, here in Isaiah, may you edify, encourage, and enlighten us concerning your purpose and program for the nation Israel. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Isaiah chapter 3 continues how chapter 2 closed. Further explanation here. For behold, the judgment, the day of the Lord is coming. For behold, the Lord of hosts, doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah, the southern kingdom, the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread, and the whole stay of water, the mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50 and the honorable man, and the counselor and the cunning artificer, and the eloquent orator. All these skilled men, these powerful men, ruling men, her strength, her prosperity, Judah and Jerusalem get that taken away from them. God Almighty curses them. The blessings are departing. And I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. You know who that's going to be? The Gentiles will rule. The spiritual midgets, the Gentiles, with their pagan religious system. God says that is who I'm going to give my people Israel over to. And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor, and the child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. Civil war. When a man shall take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, Thou hast clothing, be thou our ruler, and let this ruin be under thy hand. In that day shall they swear, saying, I will be an healer. For in my house is neither bread nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of the people. Know why? I can't help you. I'm just as bad off as you are. There's rebellion. There's fighting, contention, disharmony. For Jerusalem is ruined, and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his jealousy. They broke the old covenant. The show of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Oh, no shame here. Look at everything we're going to do. And they thumb their nose at God's face. They don't blush. They don't even do it in the dark. They just commit their sins openly and say, what are you going to do about it, God? Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. Say unto the righteous that it should be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. See the believing remnant? Woe unto the wicked, condemnation. It shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hand shall be given him. You reap what you sow. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. Oh, no proper leadership. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. These evil kings and princes are deceiving you, Israel, misleading you in that false idolatrous system. The Lord standeth up to plead, and standeth to judge the people. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people, and the princes thereof, for ye have eaten up the vineyard. Isaiah chapter 5, Israel is the vineyard. God's vineyard. is destroyed. These spiritual perverts have consumed his nation. The spoil of the poor is in your houses, robbers. What mean ye that beat my people to pieces and grind the faces of the poor? You're taking away their identity and you're beating them silly. These corrupt leaders are defiling God's people, the Jews. They're destroying God's people, and the wrath is going to fall. And they think it's bad now. Just wait. Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion. Now, bizarre here. Listen to what the daughters of Zion do. These women, they're haughty, walk with stretched forth necks, wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, making a tingling with their feet. They have the little anklets around their feet. Therefore the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. In that day, the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet and their calls. They have these turbans here, and they're round tires like the moon. See? The lace, the beauty, the chains, the bracelets, the mufflers, veils, earrings, and bonnets, ornaments of the legs, and headbands, and the tablets, the earrings, the rings, the nose jewels, the changeable suits of apparel, and the mantles, and the wimples, and the crisping pins, the glasses, the fine linen, the hoods, and the veils. Outward beauty. The false religious system makes them so emphatic on the outward appearance. It's all about what it looks like on the outside. Externalism. They have their good religious system going. It looks nice on the outside, dead inside. The beautiful women outside and lost as a goose. They don't have the one true God on their side in their minds. They're anti-Jehovah God. And he will get them. And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell, their perfume, they stink. And instead of a girdle, a rent, tear. Tear that belt. And instead of well-set hair, look, the beautiful hair. Baldness, oh my. Take away the hair, and instead of a stomacher, a girding of sackcloth. No more of this. Now there's a veil of sackcloth, like a burlap sack, mourning. No more joy, and burning instead of beauty. Thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in the war. And her gates shall lament and mourn, and she, being desolate, shall sit upon the ground. Chapter 4, and in that day, the day of the Lord, 7 women shall take hold of one man. What happened to all the men? The men are taken out, for example, in war. The women live. There are 7 times more women there than men. We will eat of our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name, to take away our reproach. See, they're looking for help from others. The judgment has fallen. In that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious. Here's the Messiah, the branch. And the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem. When the Lord shall have washed away the filth, chapter 3, of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment, chapter 1, and by the spirit of burning. The murder is gone. The spiritual prostitutes are gone. God has washed away the filth. That's the millennium. See, judgment, restoration. Wrath, millennium. And the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud of a smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense. That reminds us of God's presence with Israel, huh? The cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night with Moses. And there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a covert from storm and from rain. Now, Isaiah bursts forth with a song here, chapter 5. Now will I sing to my well-beloved, that's God, a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. He fenced it, gathered out the stones thereof, he planted it with the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem, and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could I have done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth wild grapes, instead of the nation being God's nation, that nation is now becoming its own nation. Hold on, I'll show you what that means. Verse 5, and now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down, and I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. Interpretation, for the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. God called a vine out of Egypt, Psalm 80, and he planted it in the pleasant land, the promised land. It's the nation Israel, the vineyard. The vine is the nation Israel. The men of Judah his pleasant plant, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. They corrupted their own nation. They corrupted themselves. Human efforts corrupted God's nation. Israel didn't walk in the identity she had. She walked in an identity she created for herself. She got involved with pagan religion. She left the God who sanctified her from Egypt. She went back to Egypt, spiritually and mentally. She's living in the promised land physically. She's living in Egypt spiritually. Bondage to sin and Satan. Didn't learn the lesson of the law. And so God says, I'll lay it waste like a bulldozer. Woe. Chapter 5, verse 8. Now listen to these 6 woes here. Woe, verse 8. Unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field, till there be no place, that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. In mine ears, said the Lord of hosts, of a truth many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair, without inhabitant. Yea, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield 1 bath, and the seed of an omer shall yield an ephah. Famine. They're not going to get, it's not productive. They are so greedy. They're laying house to house. They can't pack enough real estate development into those patches of land there. They're greedy, materialistic, and God says, that's okay, I'll fix them. They won't prosper economically. They want, and they will get nothing to show for all their efforts. That's the first woe. Greedy, materialistic, and they're judged with famine. Verse 11, woe, number 2, to them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink that continue until night, till wine inflame them, and the harp and the viol, and the tabret and the pipe, and wine, and in their feasts, but they regard not the work of the Lord, neither consider the operation of his hands. Drunkenness. No justice. Drunkards. Inebriation. Can't govern correctly. Therefore my people are going into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore hell hath enlarged herself like a monster, opening the jaws, ready to gobble them up, and opens her mouth without measure, and their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it. No more pride there, huh? And the mean man, the common man, shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled. Great and small alike judged, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But the Lord of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and God that is holy shall be sanctified in righteousness. The judgment's coming, the captivity is coming. Then shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall strangers eat. Verse 18. Woe number 3. Woe unto them that draw iniquity with cords of vanity, and sin as it were a cart rope, that say, let him make speed, and hasten his work, that we may see it. And let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw nigh and come, that we may know it. Oh, Isaiah, you said judgment's coming? Well, come on, let it come. Speed it up, Lord. See how they're mocking? They're mocking Isaiah the prophet. They're mocking God's messenger. They're mocking God himself. They're rebelling against God there. Verse 20. Woe number 4. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. The moral standards are confused. Evil is called good, good is called evil. Darkness is substituted for light, light is substituted for darkness. Bitter for sweet, sweet for bitter. Well, that sounds like today, huh? Right is wrong and wrong is right. Man is woman, woman is man. Christian is non-Christian, non-Christian is Christian. That society is doomed to fail. Once the standards of right and wrong, once the standards in creation itself, in human society, are reversed, that society doesn't have a prayer in the world of being delivered from what's to come. And just like Israel will face God's judgment, our society today will as well. God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap. That's lost and saved alike. Verse 21, woe. Here's another woe. This is number 5. Woe to them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Conceited. They think they're something they aren't. Woe, number 6. To them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward, and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. Injustice. Therefore, as the fire devoureth the stubble, and the flame consumeth the chaff, so their root shall be as rottenness, and their blossom shall go up as dust. Because they have cast away the law of the Lord of hosts, and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. You know what their problem is? They have rejected the Bible. Sounds like today, huh? Societal woes, nothing new. Isaiah chapter 5. Therefore is the anger of the Lord kindled against his people, and he had stretched forth his hand against them, and hath smitten them, and the hills did tremble, and their carcasses were torn in the midst of the streets. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. They're not reformed. The judgment has come on them thus far, and they have not turned away from their sin. The punishment was to discourage the waywardness. The punishment is there, and they're continuing to do what they want to do. And he will lift up an ensign to the nations from afar, and will hiss unto them from the end of the earth. And behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. God says, come on, Gentiles, enter the promised land. Make war with my people and rip them from it, from the promised land. I don't want them here anymore. And none shall be weary nor stumble among them. None shall slumber nor sleep. Neither shall the girdle of their loins be loosed, nor the latchet of their shoes be broken, whose arrows are sharp, and all their bows bent. Their horses' hooves shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. Their roaring, here come those Gentile armies, shall be like a lion. They shall roar like young lions. Yea, they shall roar and lay hold of the prey, and shall carry it away safe, and none shall deliver it. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea. And if one look unto the land, behold, darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkened in the heavens thereof. Judgment, judgment, judgment. Judgment is coming. Now, first and foremost, it'll come on Israel, the northern 10 tribes, but then it'll come on Jerusalem, Judah, the southern 2 tribes. So chapter 6, in the year that Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. A skirt, the Lord's wearing a robe, and that skirt fills the temple. Above it stood the seraphims. Now, some strange spirit beings here. The seraphims. We'll read about the cherubims later. The seraphims. Seraph is singular. Seraphim, that's plural. The I am in Hebrew is plural. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. And one cried unto another, and said, this is the trihagion it's called, the thrice holy. Holy, holy, holy. That hymn, holy, holy, holy. Lord God Almighty, God in 3 persons, blessed Trinity, you know, holy, holy, holy. The trihagion there, holy, holy, holy. See, the Trinity is implied. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's not holy is the Lord of hosts. It's holy, holy, holy. Why 3 holies? Why not 2 or 50? Why not 10 holies? Holy, 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 and so on. It's 3 for a reason. Holy, holy, holy. The Trinity, the Godhead, is not new in the New Testament. It's not new to the Bible in the New Testament. It's found in the Old Testament if we just look. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. See, now Isaiah, he sees his own sinfulness. Why? He sees, oh, the Lord of hosts is holy. I'm not. I'm sinful. The posts, verse 4, the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then said I, woe is me, Isaiah is speaking, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from off the altar. He laid it on my mouth, and said, Lo, this hath touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin purged. Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Us. Three persons are sending Isaiah here. There's his recommission. Then said I, Here am I, send me. Recall with Moses, when God was sending Moses to Israel in Egypt, Moses said, Oh, don't send me. Send the person whom I send. Isaiah says, I'm a sinner, but I've been purified for ministry purposes. Send me. God says, okay, go, Isaiah. Verse 9, and tell this people, Hear ye indeed, but understand not. And see ye indeed, but perceive not. So they're going to hear the message, but they're not going to understand. They're going to see, but they're not going to understand. They're not going to perceive. Make the heart of this people fat, like callous, gross, and make their ears heavy and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert, and be healed. We'll see that that's quoted in Matthew and John. And we'll also see that at the close of Acts quoted. Israel's persistent non-responsiveness to God's word. They're not responding to God's word. They are insensitive to his word. They're beyond feeling, Ephesians says. They're no longer willing to hear anything from him. And so, all right, well, there'll be the word going forth now, but rather than the word giving them light, the word will confuse them. They won't understand. Now, when we get to the four gospel records, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they didn't want to hear Jesus Christ speaking plainly, so now what he's going to do, he will adapt his. Now they're parables. They're no longer spoken in plain language. Now they're in veiled language. The truths of God's word to Israel, they're veiled. They're hard to get now. It's not the parables are not to make God's word easier to understand. It's to make God's word harder for the unbeliever, because they didn't want to hear the plain truth earlier. All right, verse 11. Then said I, How long? How long will I have to do that, Lord? He answered, Until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate, and the Lord have removed men far away, and there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. Judgment. 13, But yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return, and shall be eaten as a teil tree, and as an oak, whose substance is in them, when they cast their leaves. So the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. A tenth shall return. There's Israel's believing remnant returning to the land. There's wrath coming. There's exile coming. But Israel will not be utterly consumed, and they won't be permanently out of God's program. A tenth shall return. Now, remember the tithe? The tithe, 10%, and there were really 3 tithes in the law of Moses. There's the 10% tithe, which is the income tax given to the priests of Israel, and it's tithe off of grain and livestock, the sheep and the cattle and so on. And then we have a second tithe, another 10%. That is for the religious system feasts funding when the male Jews have to go 3 times a year to Jerusalem? Well, they need money to fund those trips. So there's a second 10% tithe there. And then, of course, there's a third 10% tithe given every 3 years. That's the welfare system. Well, the tithe has a prophetic significance in that God will bring back a tenth of Israel into the land. So just like Israel was to take a tenth of their wealth, first tithe, second tithe, third tithe, God will take a tithe of Israel from the nations of the world. He'll bring them back into the land. He scattered them out of the land. He'll bring them back. And it's a remnant, if you notice, it's 10%. See, it's not the multitude. It's not the vast majority. It's just a remnant. See, a remnant there. Chapter 7 now. And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, that Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up toward Jerusalem to war against it, but could not prevail against it. And it was told the house of David. Now, see, David isn't alive, of course. The house of David, though, refers to David's descendant, which would be Ahaz. Verse 1. Ahaz is king of Judah in Jerusalem there. It was told the house of David, saying, Syria is confederate with Ephraim. Now, Ephraim is what? That's the northern kingdom, the northern 10 tribes. Syria and Ephraim are allies here. Let me say this. I'll give some background here to understanding the book of Isaiah. And what we do is we compare verses from 2 Kings with verses in Isaiah to see what's going on in this context of Isaiah 7, for example. Now, secular history, 745 to 727, during that time frame, there's an Assyrian king or emperor. His name is Tiglath-Pileser. Tiglath-Pileser, we go to 2 Kings chapter 15. This is where he's named. 2 Kings 15. Verse 19. And Pul, the king of Assyria, came against the land, and Menahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver. See, Assyria is rising to power. Now come to verse 29 here. 2 Kings 15:29. In the days of Pekah, see, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and took. All right, so hold that. Tiglath-Pileser. So hold a hand in 2 Kings 15, and we'll come back to that shortly. Assyria is gaining more and more power as Isaiah's early ministry is underway. The opening 2 decades or so of Isaiah's ministry. Assyria is gaining power in the Middle East. See, in Assyria, I don't have a map there, and, well, I'll take my little prophet's timeline away, but I'm not erasing it, thank goodness, because I don't want to draw that again. That's why I put it on the poster and not on the board. I'll draw a map again, and I sure hope these work. The Mediterranean Sea, and we have the Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River, the Dead Sea. Israel here, see the northern 10 tribes, and then the 2 southern tribes, Judah, Benjamin, the 2 kingdoms. Assyria is over here in this direction. Assyria. Assyria is like northern Iran today, and southern Turkey, and parts of Syria. That is Assyria. Assyria, oh, it's so hard to get off. Assyria is becoming a world power, increasingly mightier. So, Syria, I'm going to put Syria right here. Syria and Assyria, they're not to be confused. Assyria is the large, mighty people. Syria is small, comparatively speaking, and Israel is small, and of course so is Judah. Assyria is gaining ground. So, in 2 Kings 16, verse 5, then Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, they ally and they come against Jerusalem the war, but they besieged Ahaz but could not overcome him. And at that time, Rezin, king of Syria, recovered Elath to Syria and drave the Jews from Elath, and the Syrians came to Elath and dwelt there unto this day. Now that's along the Red Sea. But what we need to see here is that the king of Syria and the king of Israel allied together, and they attacked Jerusalem, Judah there, Ahaz, King Ahaz, but they couldn't overcome him. They tried to ally, Syria and Israel allied together in an attempt to fight against Assyria, and they wanted Ahaz to join them, and since he didn't want to join them, they attacked him and tried to take over him. Syria and Israel tried to attack and take over Ahaz's throne. They couldn't do that. Now look at verse 7. 2 Kings 16. 2 Kings 16 verse 7. So Ahaz sends messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, for help. See, I am thy servant and thy son. Come and save me out of the hand of the king of Syria and out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rise up against me. So Ahaz took the wealth, and we read this in 2 Kings lessons. Ahaz took the wealth in the temple and the treasures from the king's house. He gave it to Assyria. Assyria, you come help fight Israel and Syria for me. And of course, Judah is now under Assyrian servitude. Ahaz is servant to Assyria for Assyria coming. Now, back in chapter 15, I hope you follow it. 2 Kings 15:29, in the days of Pekah, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and he took John, and Abel Beth-Maacah, and Janoah, and Kadesh, and Hazor, and Gilead, and Galilee, and all the land of Naphtali, and carried them captive to Assyria. So Tiglath-Pileser came, and he took these various places named there. Galilee, see Galilee, the north there. He took these people captive, attacking Syria and Israel there to help Ahaz. And so the king of Assyria, Tiglath-Pileser, discouraged Syria and Israel from attacking Ahaz. But of course, now Ahaz had to pay Assyria to do that, and Ahaz is now under the Assyrian servitude. All right? So Judah is servant to Assyria. Look at 2 Kings 17, verse 3. So now there's another king in Samaria, Israel, the northern. It said the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, that Hoshea, the son of Elah, he reigned in Samaria. Verse 3, against him came Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea. Verse 5, the king of Assyria came throughout all the land, went to Samaria, and besieged it 3 years. And in the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away captive to Assyria. So it was in the days of Hoshea here that Samaria ultimately fell, and that is that captivity of the northern kingdom now. And so the 10 northern tribes are taken off to Assyria there. That is the 5th course of judgment for the northern kingdom. That was during the reigns of Ahaz and Hezekiah, that the northern tribes were taken captive. Now, that's verse 6 all the way through to what, 23, 24, 2 Kings 17. Now, look at chapter 18 of 2 Kings. You see who shows up here? Hezekiah, verse 1. Hezekiah began to reign. Hezekiah, now look at verse 7. And the Lord was with him, Hezekiah, and he prospered whithersoever he went, and he rebelled against the king of Assyria and served him not. So Ahaz had a son, Hezekiah. Ahaz had been servant to Assyria. Remember, Judah had been a servant to Assyria. Hezekiah, the Lord is on his side. Ahaz, unbeliever. But the Lord is with Hezekiah, Ahaz's son. Hezekiah refuses to serve Assyria like his father Ahaz did. Now we're going to read here where Assyria attempts to capture Judah and Jerusalem. He attempts to overrun Jerusalem. And this man's name, this king of Assyria, if we look at 2 Kings 18, 2 Kings 18, verse 9, see, it came to pass in the 4th year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hoshea, that Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it. And at the end of the 3 years, in the 6th year of Hezekiah, the 9th year of Hoshea, king of Israel, Samaria was taken. And the king of Assyria did carry away Israel unto Assyria. That's what, because they obeyed not the voice of the Lord their God. That's 2 Kings 18. Now look at verse 13. Now in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came against all the fenced cities of Judah and took them. And Hezekiah, and we read that in 2 Kings, in the 2 Kings lessons there, way back when. But I want you to see here, there's a new king of Assyria now, Sennacherib. Sennacherib. All right, so if you can keep that in your mind, back to Isaiah, the book of Isaiah. And 2 Kings 18 and 19 will point back to them later as we move through Isaiah, because there are parallels. Isaiah reaches back into history, the history books, and brings it up in order to prepare us for prophecy that's coming later. So Syria is confederate with Ephraim. And Ahaz's heart is moved. He's afraid. And the heart of his people, as the trees of the wood, are moved with the wind. Then said the Lord to Isaiah, you go and you meet Ahaz, you and Shear-Jashub thy son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field. Isaiah has a son here, Shear-Jashub. In the book of Job, in our Job studies, God will bring a remnant. He'll turn the captivity of Israel again. A remnant shall return. Shear-Jashub, Job's name there. Jashub, returned, turned back. A remnant shall return. More will be said about that in chapter 8. Just hold that thought. And say to him, take heed and be quiet. Don't fear, King Ahaz, neither be faint-hearted, for the two tails of these smoking firebrands, for the fierce anger of Rezin with Syria, and of the son of Remaliah, because Syria, Ephraim, and the son of Remaliah have taken evil counsel against thee, saying, let us go against Judah and vex it, and let us make a breach therein for us, and set a king in the midst of it, even the son of Tabiel. And you go back to 2 Kings 16, and you see that's what's happening here. Israel, the north, and Syria, in the north too. They're coming to try to overthrow Ahaz. Jehovah God tells Isaiah, go pass the message on Ahaz. Don't be afraid of that alliance that Syria and Israel have in trying to overthrow you. It won't work. I won't let them attack you and invade you. Conquer you is what I should say. Thus saith the Lord God, it shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. For the head of Syria is Damascus, the capital city, and the head of Damascus is Rezin, that's their king. And within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken, that it be not a people, the captivity. And the head of Ephraim in Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son, that's Pekah. If you will not believe, surely you shall not be established. Moreover, the Lord spake again unto Ahaz, saying, ask thee a sign of the Lord thy God. Ask it either in the depth or in the height above. Now Ahaz, watch his false humility. I won't ask, neither will I tempt the Lord. Now God orders Ahaz, ask a sign of me. Ahaz says, oh, I won't challenge the Lord. I won't ask for a sign. Unbelief. See, it wasn't that Ahaz was just to ask a sign, just to ask it. God instructed him, you ask for a sign. Ahaz is such an unbeliever. He's an idolater. You go read in 2 Kings. The audience changes now. It's not simply Ahaz. Verse 13, God says, hear ye now, O house of David. Now this is not going to come to pass in Ahaz's day. This is going to come to pass someday. But the house of David, the royal bloodline of David, people in David's, who are his descendants, they will see it come to pass. This prophecy, this major prophecy. Is it a small thing for you to weary men? But will ye weary my God also? With all the unbelief and the idolatry, God's tired of it. Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Compare that with Matthew 1, verse 23. That is Jesus Christ. A virgin shall conceive. Now, is there some controversy about that word virgin there? The people who don't like the virgin conception of Christ, for example, they would say, well, the Hebrew word virgin doesn't necessarily mean a woman who hasn't had sexual relations. It simply just means a woman who isn't married. An unmarried woman. See how they try to chip away at the virgin conception of Christ? a virgin shall conceive. Now in Matthew 1, when that verse is quoted, that Greek word can only mean a pure, sexually pure woman. The Greek is more restrictive. So the word virgin here in Hebrew is more than just some unmarried woman. It's a woman who has never had sexual relations with a man. She'll conceive. See, that's the miracle. There's no miracle. There's no sign in a woman having a child. The sign is going to be in the fact that the woman has never had an intimate relationship with a man, and yet she has a child. That's the sign. I mean, come on, use some common sense. You see, unbelievers don't care to use sanctified common sense here. They don't have eyes. They don't want to see. His name shall be Emmanuel, God with us. Go look in Matthew 1 and you'll see that defined as such. Emmanuel, God with us. Elohim, God. That name will appear in chapter 8. God will be with them. Jehovah Shammah is the expression in Ezekiel. Okay, the house of David. This is a sign to the house of David. Who was present to see Jesus Christ born? It certainly wasn't King Ahaz. He was dead. Now the Bible critic would say, how can this be a sign to Ahaz? See, but the Bible didn't say it was a sign to Ahaz. See verse 13? It's a sign to the house of David. You go to Matthew 1, Joseph is of the house of David. You go to Luke 3, Mary is of the house of David. David's bloodline is still present in the nation Israel when the Lord Jesus Christ is conceived in the Virgin Mary's womb and born. The house of David, that royal bloodline, those royal descendants of David, they saw the Messiah born, just like verse 14 said. Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that thou abhorrest shall be forsaken of both her kings. Now look at verse 17. The Lord shall bring upon thee and upon thy people and upon thy father's house days that have not come, from the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, even the king of Assyria. Now this is speaking to the king of Israel here. The Assyrian captivity is coming on the northern kingdom. That deportation, that exile, that fifth course of chastisement, the northern kingdom is about to say adios to the promised land. The promised land is about to say adios to the northern kingdom. Days that have not come, verse 18. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall hiss for the fly that is in the uttermost part of the rivers of Egypt, and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria. Assyria was known for beekeeping, by the way. And they shall come and shall rest all of them in the desolate valleys and in the holes of the rocks, and upon all thorns, and upon all bushes. And that's in the same day shall the Lord shave with a razor that is hired. Shave them good, namely by them beyond the river, by the king of Assyria, the head and the hair of the feet. And it shall also consume the beard. The desolation, it shall come to pass in that day that a man shall nourish a young cow and 2 sheep. It will come to pass for the abundance of milk that they shall give. He shall eat butter, for butter and honey shall every one eat that is left in the land. It shall come to pass in that day that every place shall be where there were 1,000 vines at 1,000 silverlings, it shall be even for briars and thorns. Ruin, with arrows and with bows shall men come thither, because all the land shall become briars and thorns. And on all hills that shall be digged with the mattock, there shall not come thither the fear of the briars and thorns. But it shall be for the sending forth of oxen, and for the treading of lesser cattle. The Assyrian captivity is coming on the northern. So take heart, Ahaz. not only is judgment coming upon Israel, it's also coming on Syria. Syria and Israel, verse 16, the land that you abhor, Ahaz, they'll be forsaken of both her kings, Syria and Israel. Syria will attack Syria and Israel. And Ahaz won't have to worry about them attacking him because Assyria got him. Isaiah chapter 8 now. Moreover, the Lord said to me, take thee a great roll and write it with a man's pen. Now, concerning Maher-shalal, Maher-shalal Hashbaz. That is another son of Isaiah. Maher-shalal Hashbaz. That means seize to the spoil, hurry up to the booty. Now, what does that mean exactly? By the time we get to the close of Isaiah 8, it'll make sense. And I do remember, I noted that other son of Isaiah. I'll explain him too. Shir-Jashub. But hold on, alright. So, Isaiah 8 verse 2. So, Isaiah took me... So, Isaiah says, I took unto me faithful witnesses to record, Uriah the priest and Zechariah the son of Jeberechiah. I went to the prophetess, had relations with her, married her, and she conceived and bare a son. Then that son there is the one named in verse 1. Maher-shalal Hashbaz. For before the child shall have knowledge to cry, my father, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria shall be taken away before the king of Assyria. Damascus, that's the capital of Syria, and Samaria, that's the capital of Israel, the northern 10 tribes. They'll be attacked. Who's going to attack them? Assyria. The larger, the world power there, Assyria, will attack Syria and Israel. God will bring that to pass. The riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria shall be taken away before the king of Assyria. The Lord spake also unto me again, saying, for as much as this people, that's the northern 10 tribes, refuse the waters of Shiloah, that go softly, and rejoice in Rezin, that is the king of Syria, remember, and Remaliah's son, that is Pekah. Now therefore, behold, the Lord bringeth on them the waters of the river, strong and many, even the king of Assyria, in all his glory. And he shall come up over all his channels, and go over all his banks. Assyria will come and decimate this region, Syria and Israel, the northern kingdom and their land. He'll pass through Judah. Eventually, Assyria will come on down through to Judah there, and we'll see that later. And we saw that in 2 Kings when we were reading 2 Kings earlier, as well as in the 2 Kings lessons. Assyria shall pass through Judah. He shall overflow and go over. He shall reach even to the neck, and the stretching out of his wings shall fill the breadth of thy land, O Emmanuel. Emmanuel, that's the same one back in chapter 7, verse 14. That's Jesus Christ. The Jesus Christ who will sit and reign over this land one day, he has to see it be destroyed first. Now verse 9, associate yourselves, O ye people, and ye shall be broken in pieces, and give ear, all ye of far countries. Gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Gird yourselves, and ye shall be broken in pieces. Take counsel together, and it shall come to naught. Speak the word, and it shall not stand, for God is with us. That's that issue of Emmanuel, God with us. Now the Jews, Gentile oppressors here, these Gentiles should not gloat, "Oh, we defeated the Jews, Israel and Judah." Because what do the believing Jews ultimately say? God is with us. In the end, God will judge the Gentiles whom He used to judge sinful Jews. He'll restore Israel, He'll restore Judah one day, using the Gentiles to chastise Israel, not permanent. "For the Lord spake thus to me with a strong hand, and instructed me that I should not walk in the way of this people, saying, Say ye not a confederacy to all them to whom this people shall say a confederacy. Neither fear ye their fear, nor be afraid. Sanctify the Lord of hosts Himself, and let Him be your fear, and let Him be your dread." Don't be confederate, Israel, with foreign Gentile powers for help in battle. Sanctify the Lord of hosts Himself. Rely on the Lord. Don't ask for Gentile help in helping put down Gentile enemies. Rely on the Lord. He is to be your fear. He's to be your dread. Now look at verse 14 here. "And He shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling and for a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, for a gin and for a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem." So Jehovah God can be one of two things. To the unbeliever, He's the stone of stumbling and the rock of offense. Scandalous. Confusion. They don't like Him. But to the believers, He is a sanctuary. They find rest in Him and safety in Him. Now watch. Very interesting. Come over to 1 Peter chapter 2. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 5. Jesus Christ, the last two words. Look at verse 8. "He's made a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient." Jesus Christ is a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense to these people who did not believe on Him. Those who did believe on Him, they see Him as the chief cornerstone, elect, precious. Those who are disobedient, they reject Jesus Christ. And He's made the head of the corner, regardless of them rejecting Him. God still has Him at the center of His dealings with Israel. Jesus Christ is still a major character in God's dealings with Israel. Well, if we go back to Romans 9, and I don't want to spend too much time here either, but Romans 9, 30 to 33, some similar language. Jesus Christ is called, God the Father says, "I lay in Zion," Romans 9:33, "a stumbling stone and rock of offense, and whosoever believeth on Him shall not be ashamed." They stumbled at that stumbling stone. That's Christ's earthly ministry. They stumbled at His earthly ministry. They didn't want to believe, the Jews didn't want to believe who He was. They denied that He was their Messiah. We have no king but Caesar. They stumbled over Him. Jehovah God is said to be the stone of stumbling and the rock of offense in Isaiah's day. And Jesus Christ is said to be the stone of stumbling and the rock of offense in the time of the apostles. So Jesus Christ and Jehovah are one and the same, in other words. Whether it's in Isaiah's day or in Christ's earthly ministry, and of course 1 Peter 2 looks back, and Romans chapter 9 looks back on that. They rejected Jesus Christ. They should have relied on Him. They rejected Him. But there were a few believers in Israel. It's the same way with Isaiah. Rather than relying on these foreign powers, Jews, you need to rely on Jehovah God. Jehovah God can be your sanctuary. Jesus Christ can be your sanctuary. Or He can be your stone of stumbling and rock of offense. That's Jehovah God. That's Jesus Christ. Unbelief or belief, it's your choice. Faith, no faith. And Jehovah God functions in Isaiah like that. And Jesus Christ functions the same way in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, in the Acts period, and 1 Peter 2, etc. And many among, so this is Isaiah 8:15, and many among them shall stumble and fall and be broken and be snared and be taken. Many. Not just a few, many are unbelieving. Bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples, the little flock. And I will wait upon the Lord that hideth His face from the house of Jacob, and I will look for Him. Wait for that second coming. See, the fifth course of judgment is operating, and He's hiding His face. Isaiah will repeat that numerous times. God hides His face from Israel during that day of the Lord, the time of His wrath, the opening of the day of the Lord, the earlier stages. You see where it says they wait on the Lord. They're going to wait for His second coming when He restores them. See, the captivity, that loops. Historically, there was a captivity, but that loops all the way to the second coming when they're still captive to Gentiles under the Antichrist and his 10-nation confederacy. Don't rely on that Antichrist. He'll be disappointment, just like relying on these Gentiles here for help in war will be a disappointment. Israel needs to see, the Jews need to see the lesson there. The Lord of hosts, the Lord Jesus Christ, is the sanctuary. That's for believers. The unbelievers, He's a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. A scandal. Not worthy of their time. They don't have any time for Him. Now listen to verse 18. Behold, I and the children whom the Lord hath given me are for signs and for wonders in Israel from the Lord of hosts, which dwelleth in Mount Zion. Now that is a lot of truth in that one little verse. Let me show you why. I, that's Isaiah, and the children, Shear Jashub, and then of course the other son of Isaiah, 8 verse 1, Meher Sha'al Hashbaz. Hallelujah, I got it right. Meher Sha'al Hashbaz. Those two names are for signs and for wonders in Israel. Israel is to look at Isaiah's sons' names and see two truths. Shear Jashub, a remnant will return. And what are they returning from? Meher Sha'al Hashbaz. Seize on the booty. Hurry up and grab the spoils. There's judgment coming. The Gentiles are coming to take spoils of war. Take Israel captive. But a remnant shall return. That's the names of the two sons of Isaiah. So Isaiah is speaking in verse 18 of chapter 8. Look at the end of verse 18. The Lord of hosts dwells in Mount Zion. Okay. You know who else That's a reference to the temple. Do you know who else is speaking in Isaiah 8:18? Well, let's go. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 13. Hebrews 2, verse 11 is the Lord Jesus Christ speaking. And this is what he says, verse 12, Hebrews 2:12. I will declare thy name, he's speaking to God the Father. I will declare thy name unto my brethren. In the midst of the church will I sing praise unto thee. The church, that's not the body of Christ. That's the Messianic church of Matthew 16. Upon this rock I will build my church, the called out assembly, the Lord's believing remnant in Israel. And again, I will put my trust in him. And again, behold, I and the children which God hath given me. So Isaiah 8, verse 18, is Jesus Christ speaking and saying, I have a little flock of believers following me. They're the children God gave me. And yet Isaiah 8:18 says, Isaiah is speaking, God gave me some children. I have 2 sons. See that? So Isaiah and Jesus Christ are parallel there. Isaiah is a type of Jesus Christ, who's the antitype. You look at Isaiah, now look at Jesus Christ. See the comparison there? They both have children whom God has given them. And both sets of children are for signs and wonders in Israel. And in the case of Isaiah's sons, one, Gentiles will come in and steal your possession, then actually take you off too. But 2, a remnant shall return. Well, likewise, the little flock is a sign to Israel. God is in their midst. God is in Israel's midst. He's ready to bring in the kingdom. There's the believing remnant. That's the judges that he'll restore to them, like Isaiah 1 said. The apostles, the 12 apostles, sitting on the 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And that's Matthew 19, the last few verses. All right, enough about that. Back to Isaiah, because I want to finish Isaiah chapter 8 before the hour lesson expires. Not a little over an hour, but let me finish the chapter. It will conclude part 2. The little flock, that's the remnant returning to the land. That's how the little flock is a sign to Israel. It's a sign that God is with them and that the remnant of believers will go into that millennium. So that is how the little flock is a sign to Israel. Just like Isaiah's sons were signs, for signs and wonders to Israel. Look at verse 19. And when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits, and unto wizards that peep and that mutter, should not a people seek unto their God for the living to the dead? To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. Look at that false religious system, huh? See that devil worship? See those evil spirits there, those familiar spirits, the wizards that peep and that mutter? You know what? That's their little chants and their little, it's like a bird chirping and muttering. These are the incantations. These are the spells that Israel's corrupt religious leaders are saying in order to summon the dead. Necromancy. They're dabbling with the occult here. The wizards that peep and mutter like a chip, 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 big incoherent babbling. That's the heathen tongues there. Just because somebody goes shabbala habbala, oh, the Spirit of God. See, you know what? There's some peeping and muttering there, and God says, that's wrong in Isaiah 8. Just because somebody speaks in some foreign, angelic-like language, that doesn't mean that the God of the Bible is speaking. Because here, we have wizards that peep and mutter. It's hard to understand what they're saying. And they're certainly not glorifying God. They're not filled with the Holy Ghost. They're filled with some other spirit. It's the spirit of the devil. That's why God has a controversy with Israel, is that idol worship has corrupted them, and instead of listening to God's word, they listen to Satan's words. To the law and to the testimony. The law and the testimony. The law of Moses, of course, and the testimony. The testimony, verse 1 and 2 there, that's God's word to Israel, to the Jews, through Isaiah. If these religious leaders, see, the standard is God's word. If these religious leaders aren't speaking according to the law, and the law would say don't have any other gods before Jehovah God, but they break that. And Isaiah says turn away from the idols. They're not turning away. Well, see, you compare Israel's activity, the Jews' activity, with the verses. They don't follow Moses. They don't follow Isaiah. It is because there is no light in them, darkness. The Bible is the standard, not the supernatural experience. And I pointed that out in Deuteronomy 13. Just because somebody says, look, I've received a vision from God. I have a wonder, a sign, and the sign come to pass, the wonder come to pass. God says, if they are using some supernatural activity or demonstration, a miracle healing, oh, I've gotten a word from God. They use something like that, and they bring you away from me, put them to death, Deuteronomy 13 says. Here, he says, you better not just go by some supernatural experience and start attributing it to me. You better go look in Moses, and you better go look in Isaiah's ministry and see if that's really what I said to do. And if what these people in verse 19 are doing doesn't fit Moses and Isaiah. False prophets, false religious leaders, vain religious system, and that's why my judgment is coming on you. And they shall pass through it, hardly bestead and hungry. And it shall come to pass that when they shall be hungry, they shall fret themselves and curse their king and their God and look up upward. See, cursing God. Look at the judgment coming on us. See, they're not getting right. And they shall look unto the earth, and behold, trouble and darkness, dimness of anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness. Isaiah's message is offensive to them. They curse their king and their God. And what are they going to get? Trouble, darkness, dimness of anguish. They're driven to darkness. The wrath of God falls on them. They're not sorry. They don't confess. They just get upset with Isaiah, and they curse God and their king. Their king and their God. And they look upward. That's what they're doing. That's enough. Part 2 is over. Thank you, Father God, for your word. And as we move on through Isaiah, may this benefit us mightily in Christ's name, amen.